Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you the step-by-step process that I went through to create this watercolor and ink lettering card. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm starting with watercolor paper, and I'm going to be drawing in an inset frame, and I'm measuring about 3/4 of an inch from the narrowest part of my card and just drawing a nice rectangular frame. Now, because I'm going to be using a watercolor wash later on, I'm going to use masking tape to protect that white paper from getting anything on it. So all you have to do is trim down your masking paper, and I like to use a little handy dandy credit card or an old hotel key card or an old gift card like this one. And it helps me get a nice clean edge without having to pull out scissors. So it's really nifty. I suggest you try it. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in, again, like I said, making sure that all of the edges of my frame are protected from wet paint. Once I've done that, I'm going to begin sketching in my Floral Botanicals with pencil. And all I'm doing is repeating the same floral designs and leaf designs over and over again in slightly different variations, and just making sure to keep everything looking balanced. So what I did was I actually started with my large blooms first. I put those where I wanted them to go, and then I drew in different leaf shapes and botanicals to complement those. Again, I'm looking for balance here and not so much perfection, and I'm obtaining that by simply making sure that I have leaves and flowers going in different directions and not looking too heavy or too light in any specific areas. So once I filled that up pretty well with pencil, I'm going to go over that with a Micron waterproof archival pen. You can use a different brand. You just need to make sure that it is waterproof and that you give it plenty of time to dry before adding any watercolor paint over it. Now this is the stage when we are adding and focusing on details. So I just like to start first with the general shape of each petal or each leaf, and then I'll go in and add the small details of little fold lines or those little lines in the center that really make it look like modern florals of nowadays. Those little things really add a lot of detail and make it look like you've spent quite a bit of time, which you probably have, on drawing these botanicals. By the way, if you have been wanting to gain experience and improve your botanical and floral drawing, starting small, like in a card like this, is a really great way to get practice and really get used to the shapes that you'll be creating. It's a lot less intimidating, and your mistakes will be a lot harder to see because it's such a small drawing rather than one that would take up, for example, a 9x12 piece of watercolor paper. These are great for beginners and for people who are practicing their skills and want to have practical ways to make pretty things, but are a little intimidated at the thought of making something really big. So cards are great because out of one sheet of watercolor paper, you can make 4 or 5 cards depending on how large they are. So they're a really great exercise if you are trying to actively improve your skills in a way that is meaningful and that you can enjoy and have other people enjoy the results of. And now it's time for watercolor. So I'm going to be using 2 watercolor paints here. I'm going to be using a reddish pink and a pretty purple color together because I like the blends that they make. It's very easy to create really pretty gradients. And this technique is a really great way to showcase your botanicals and still have color and make it look like you really spent a lot of time, but at the same time it's kind of a way to save time and not have to individually paint each of those leaves and florals, which is completely up to you and something you could absolutely do. So once our paint is completely dry, go ahead and peel away your tape, and now you have a clean area to put in your lettering sentiment. Now you can keep that tape for later and use it for another card, or you can throw it away. And I always love adding shimmer to pretty much anything I make. It's one of the things that I really enjoy, brings me joy, and I like to do it, so I make it a point to do so. So I'm going to grab this gold metallic watercolor by Gansai Tambi, and I'm just going to really carefully line and frame that inset frame that we created earlier. And this would just give it a nice extra little bit of a pop. And I really like how that makes it look like an actual frame, and it just brings definition to all of those florals. Once everything is dry again, I'm going to sketch in my sentiment, and I will be doing faux calligraphy for this sentiment. So I just draw in the skeleton of my letter and I go over it with a kneaded eraser so I can still see what I'm doing, but it doesn't quite get in the way as much. So I like to use these micron pens when I'm creating faux calligraphy on watercolor paper, just because I ensure that my nice soft brush pens won't get hurt on this watercolor paper. It gives me more precision and a little bit more flexibility in case I do want to go over it with watercolor paint at a later date. So I just drew in the skeleton, and now go in and add in the thickness for my downstrokes, which gives it that brush lettered look without having to use a brush lettering pen. Now I'm going to take these other gem colors, also by Kuretake Gansai Tambi, and I'm going to be using this pink color to do a really subtle monochromatic type of border all the way around the edges of my card. I really like to do this with watercolor paper in one way or another, just because I feel like it really makes everything look finished and put together, and you don't see those rough edges of the watercolor paper that, even though you can cut really smoothly and get rid of all the little extra paper edges, you can still see some of that roughness. So this provides a really easy and really nice detail without having to take up a lot of time. So I really like how that turned out. And lastly, I'm just going to take an adhesive tape gun. This is permanent, and I'll just run it all around the back of my card base and attach it to my pre-made card. And there you have it. You have a really nice handmade, unique card that you can give to someone that you appreciate. So I hope you really enjoyed this. If you are interested in seeing other cards that I make, you can check out my Skillshare class called Hand Lettered Holiday, where I walk you step by step through the process of cards that you can use for all occasions. I have Mother's Day cards, birthday cards, appreciation cards, thank you cards, Father's Day cards, a card for pretty much every occasion. So if you'd like to check that out, you can click on the link in the description box below and sign up for 2 free months of Skillshare and watch my class for free. So I hope to see you there. Leave me comments as to what you'd like to see in the future, and stay tuned. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.